Welcome to your virtual classroom at St. Mark's Presbyterian Church. Hello, and how are you on this beautiful summer day? I'm Jennifer, awaiting your arrival so I can start our new lesson. And together, we can welcome the arrival of the month of August. When we last got together, we were talking about seeds. On this page, you can see some seeds. There's a newly sprouted plant next to flower, and there's also a seed that somehow has managed to grow through a crack in a sidewalk or a parking lot. These are visual reminders of God's everyday miracles. Let's sing our current gathering song in which we glorify God's name. We glorify and pay tribute to our awesome God as together we sing, Father, we love you. We worship, we adore you. Get ready, it starts now. In this lesson, number 61, we're going to talk about seeds again. These colorful plant photos were taken last summer by our friend Pastor Aaron. The orange lily on the left always blooms in early summer, so I think she took it early or sometime in maybe mid-July last year. The other picture shows a Gloriosa daisy, also known as a black-eyed Susan. And it's a good plant to have in a garden because it's attractive to both bees and butterflies. We learned about sowing seeds last time by reading a parable. The specific way in which Jesus generally tells a story is a style referred to as parable. The word parable comes to English from the Greek language. A parable uses different descriptions of the same thing and then places them side by side in order to compare them. Parables are simple stories about ordinary things. And Jesus uses comparisons to make us scratch our heads and lean in a little closer. The comparison makes us stop and think about what has been said, to find the new idea that is hiding there in all the familiar stuff. Jesus uses parables to engage our imaginations, offering a new way of looking at the world and provoking our memory to remember how things are usually done and how God wants us to do them. And so it makes it into our memory and makes it into memorable teaching from Jesus. Last week, the storybook called the story we read, the parable Sowing Seed. Most often, the parable is known as the parable of the sower. However, you'll find different names for the parable in different Bible translations and in some sermon titles. This simply reflects the diversity in people's perceptions and responses to the story. For example, a farmer who is shocked by all the seed that goes to waste might want to call it the parable of the careless sower. An optimist might name it the miraculous harvest, because there is a surprising harvest despite the poor distribution methods. The sower and the seed are always considered as good. That is, a stable element in the story, and the variable is the type of soil. So a practical person might suggest it be named the parable of the soil. Because the disciples do not understand it, and Jesus must explain it to them, should it be called the parable of the secret Savior? I wonder. Whichever name we pick, the power of a parable, whenever we hear it, or how many times we hear it, the power of the parable is that each time we hear a parable, we hear something that we've never heard before. No wonder, for the curriculum called Young Children in Worship, they put the story figures and props for parables in a golden box. This signifies that a parable is precious. The story is never presented in an open basket because a lid is needed to symbolically uncover the message for us. Here are the close-ups of a variety of seeds, magnified by a microscope and then photographed. Let's review what we've already looked at. I made my arrow both red and green because this is an apple seed, and apples can be either color. My golden arrow points to the seed of a dandelion. And what color? They're a golden yellow color. Those were the first two we started with last time. Then we learned about these two seeds in the top row. The first will grow into a strawberry plant, and the white arrow points to the seed of a piece of grain known as Asian rice. In the next row, we looked at the first and the fourth seeds in the row. The first seed is actually yellow in color, and not surprising, it produces a yellow flower and a yellow product, mustard. And the other seed is able to produce a large vine and the kind of fruit that grows in bunches. It's a grape seed. For this next row, we have a blue and a green arrow. The blue and green are, the blue one points to the seed of a blueberry plant, and the other arrow points to the seed of an herb called basil. Here is a row of seeds we haven't talked about yet. This seed is light in color and somewhat shiny. Many people plant this type of seed, maybe even starting them in cups like this. A yellow flower will emerge among the green leaves, and later that develops into a small, pale green fruit. One plant will produce many fruit. It's the seed for something that I know almost everyone likes, especially in the summertime when it's fresh. So whether you grow them from seed or buy them at the store, do you like tomatoes? Slice into it and the seeds are right there for everyone to see. There are so many ways to eat tomatoes. I certainly can't name them all. You can put them in almost any recipe, from sandwiches to pizza and, of course, spaghetti sauce. In the same row, look at this dark seed. It has some light colored stripes. If you plant it, this is what you would see after a lot of patient waiting. Seriously, it might take 3 weeks before you see any sprout. Meanwhile, there's growth taking place underneath the soil where you can't see it. After your plant develops lots of leaves, you still have to wait. It's probably going to take at least a couple of months after that before it fully ripens and you can pull the plant out and eat the vegetable that's under the ground. Now you can see what it is. This orange vegetable is a carrot. Now, carrots can be cut up in many ways. I found out that, as it shows in this picture, there's diagonals, chunks, julienne, small or medium diced, and the next time you have carrot sticks, you could call them bâtons, which is French for stick. Would you be surprised to know that carrots can grow in other colors besides orange? There are purple and also white carrots shown at the bottom of that picture. One time I had purple ones in a restaurant. As I recall, it tasted like a regular carrot. With all that cutting and chopping, I've yet to see any seeds anywhere. Have you? Why is that? Where are they? Well, if you want to see seeds from your own carrot plants, you have to wait until next year. What? Yes, because carrots don't produce seeds until the second year. So, you need to leave a few plants in the ground. Don't touch the roots or the carrots, and leave them there over the winter, and in the spring when they come up, they should make flowers and then seeds. But as I said, you have to wait till the second year. If you've ever read this book, The Carrot Seed, which I happen to have, you know that the little boy was eventually successful in growing the seed, even though his father said it won't come up. And his older brother and even his mother, they repeatedly said it won't come up. He nevertheless believed, and a carrot came up just as the little boy had known. Some seed companies offer the seeds in a strip, so you don't have to plant them one at a time. You plant the ribbon of carrot seeds and then they grow all spaced out in a straight line. Maybe I'd try it once. On this last page of the book, can you help me? I've always wondered, is that a very large carrot or a very small wheelbarrow? Let's focus on the first seed in this row. It's very dark in color and the outside looks crackled in appearance. It's very bumpy. Can you guess what it is? Well, here's what the plant looks like when it has been growing for a while. It develops large leaves and the fruit almost look like a row of peas but without a pod. You won't see this plant growing in gardens around here because it needs a tropical climate, such as on the southwest coast of India where it's widely grown and where it first originated. I'll move these pictures and show you other pictures that should reveal to you what the seed is. The plant is black pepper. This is how it looks on top of some pasta. In the second picture, do you recognize these special objects? They're all pepper grinders, used to freshly grind the peppercorns to sprinkle on your food. I learned that black pepper, is the world's most traded spice and is one of the most common spices added by people around the world. The other seed here is also black, but the outer skin is smooth, and I see light-colored, almost white ridges along the length of the seed. It produces very green leaves. The one on the left has flat leaves and the other one has curly leaves. I've seen these choices at the grocery store, haven't you? Do you know what it's called? Well, here it is on display in a store, and I know that you can read, so you can read what it says on the bottle of dried herb. It's parsley. I like to eat it in tabbouleh, as shown here. I learned that some people add garlic to make pesto. Try to say parsley pesto a few times. Parsley pesto, pesto, parsley pesto. It's hard. You have a tongue twister. Of course, I must finally show you a sprig of parsley, because sometimes recipes say use parsley as a garnish. Essentially, that means it's for decoration. You don't need it for the flavor. It's just simply a decoration, as shown here. The seed at the beginning of the row is very round. It's very dark in color, and the outside is smooth. In this picture, I think it's too early in its growth cycle to identify what kind of plant it is. Now I'll simply go ahead and show you what it looks like when it's growing in the field. Have you seen this vegetable before? Have you eaten it? It's cauliflower. Here you can see what it looks like after the leaves have been removed and a few pieces have been broken off to cook and eat. In some ways it resembles the broccoli plant, but cauliflower has a distinct taste. Some people think it has a nutty taste. The main edible part of both the cauliflower and the broccoli is the flower bud, making them both edible flowers. Those plant people, remember I called them botanists, would tell you that cauliflower is actually in the same family as broccoli and also the same family as mustard, cabbage, and kale. You can choose seeds to grow different colors. You can grow purple, orange, or green. It's often served after steaming or in a salad, and sometimes as a main course, as shown here, where it's cooked with breading and sesame seeds, and you can dip it in your favorite sauce. This other interesting seed has a very rough surface. In some ways, it resembles the surface of the blueberry we looked at last week. And indeed, it is the seed of a fruit. This picture shows it hanging in an orchard. Maybe you're like me. You like this fruit and eat it on a regular basis, so you recognize it. I put a green arrow here in this picture to help you see how it attaches to the main plant. When it comes to the grocery store, in the packaging, the stem has been removed. So it surprised me to see how long the stem actually is. Well, here's what it looks like on the inside. Like the strawberry, the seeds of this fruit are very visible. It is called kiwi. I enjoy eating kiwi anytime, and of course, they can be combined into delicious, refreshing desserts such as these. You may have heard of key lime pie. Well, how about kiwi lime pie? And a pavlova is wonderful with fresh fruit, and that meringue-based dessert is wonderful with kiwi. Jesus had told the people about the farmer sowing wheat in the parable last time. Remember, there was a big crowd, and so Jesus went and sat on a boat so the people could hear him better. Right after he told that story, he told another one, which I'm telling today by reading from the CEV Bible, Matthew 13, beginning at verse 24. The kingdom of heaven is like what happened when a farmer scattered good seed in a field. But while everyone was sleeping, an enemy came and scattered weed seeds in the field and then left. When the plants came up and began to ripen, the farmer's servants could see the weeds. The servants came and asked, "Sir, didn't you scatter good seed in your field? Where did these weeds come from?" "An enemy did this," he replied. I want to give you an explanation before I read the rest of the Bible passage. The farmer sows good seed, but his enemy comes at night and sows weeds. Researchers believe the weed was the plant called darnel. You can see it in the picture on the left. And in the King James Version of the Bible, the word was translated as the word tare. So it's sometimes called the parable of the wheat and the weeds, and sometimes called the parable of the wheat and the tares. The plants look nearly identical when they are first growing. It's only later when each plant makes flowers that a person can tell which one is which. If they were not separated but taken and ground together with the wheat, the tares or darnel will spoil the flower. So back to the story. The servants then asked, "Do you want us to go out and pull up the weeds?" "No," he answered. "You might also pull up the wheat. Leave the weeds alone until harvest time." "Then I'll tell my workers to gather the weeds and tie them up together and burn them, but I'll have them store the wheat in my barn." Jesus used stories when he spoke to the people. In fact, he did not tell them anything without using stories. God's promise came true, just as the prophet had said, "I will use stories to speak my message and to explain things that have been hidden since the creation of the world." After Jesus left the crowd and went inside, his disciples came to him and said, "Explain to us the story about the weeds in the wheat field." Jesus answered, "The one who scattered the good seed is the Son of Man. The field is the world, and the good seeds are the people who belong to the kingdom. The weed seeds are those who belong to the evil one, and the one who scattered them is the devil. The harvest is the end of time, and angels are the ones who bring in the harvest." The Gospel of the Lord. Praise be to God. This week I'm sending 5 pages in a PDF with your email. The first page has a substitution code to answer the question, what is today's parable? Next are 2 coloring pages. And finally, there are 4 activities on 2 pages. And there's a coloring, a word search, a maze, and a color by number. Now, I hope you enjoy hearing and seeing the classic children's book called The Tiny Seed by Eric Carle. The story will be read to you by a man from the website Vids with Rye. That's his logo there, R-Y. Who comments there, we love children's books and the joy they bring to our kids when we passionately and playfully read to them. The Tiny Seed by Eric Carle.
The Tiny Seed by Eric Carle. It is autumn. A strong wind is blowing. It blows flower seeds high in the air and carries them far across the land. One of the seeds is tiny, smaller than any of the others. Will it be able to keep up with the others? And where are they all going? One of the seeds flies higher than the others. Up it goes. It flies too high and the sun's hot rays burn it up. But the tiny seed sails on with the others. Another seed lands on a tall and icy mountain. The ice never melts and the seed cannot grow. The rest of the seeds fly on, but the tiny seed does not go as fast as the others. Now they fly over the ocean. One seed falls into the water and drowns. The others sail on with the wind, but the tiny seed does not go as high as the others. One seed drifts down onto the desert. It is hot and dry, and the seed cannot grow. Now the tiny seed is flying very low, but the wind pushes it on with the others. Finally, the wind stops, and the seeds fall gently down on the ground. A bird comes by and eats one seed. The tiny seed is not eaten. It is so small the bird does not see it. Now it is winter. After their long trip, the seeds settle down. They look just as if they are going to sleep in the earth. Snow falls and covers them like a soft white blanket. A hungry mouse that also lives in the ground eats a seed for his lunch. But the tiny seed lies very still, and the mouse does not see it. Now it is spring. After a few months, the snow has melted. It is really spring. Birds fly by, the sun shines, rain falls. The seeds grow so round and full that they start to burst open a little. Now they are not seeds anymore, they are plants. First they send roots down into the earth. Then their little stems and leaves begin to grow up toward the sun and air. There is another plant that grows much faster than the new little plants. It is a big fat weed, and it takes all the sunlight and the rain away from one of the small new plants, and that little plant dies. The tiny seed hasn't begun to grow yet. It will be too late, hurry! But finally, it too starts to grow into a plant. The warm weather also brings the children out to play. They too have been waiting for the sun in springtime. One child doesn't see the plants as he runs along and oh! He breaks one. Now it cannot grow anymore. The tiny plant that grew from the tiny seed is growing fast, but its neighbor grows even faster. Before the tiny plant has 3 leaves, the other plant has 7. And look, a bud, and now even a flower. But what is happening? First there are footsteps, then a shadow looms over them. Then a hand reaches down and breaks off the flower. A boy has picked the flower to give to a friend. It is summer. Now the tiny plant from the tiny seed is all alone. It grows on and on. It doesn't stop. The sun shines on it and the rain waters it. It has many leaves. It grows taller and taller. It is taller than the people. It is taller than the trees. It is taller than the houses. And now a flower grows on it. People come from far and near to look at this flower. It is the tallest flower they have ever seen. It is a giant flower. All summer long, the birds and bees and butterflies come visiting. They have never seen such a big and beautiful flower. Now it is autumn again. The days grow shorter, the nights grow cooler, and the wind carries yellow and red leaves past the flower. Some petals drop from the giant flower and they sail along with the bright leaves, over the land and down to the ground. The wind blows harder. The flower has lost almost all of its petals. It sways and bends away from the wind, but the wind grows stronger and shakes the flower. Once more the wind shakes the flower, and this time the flower's seed pod opens. Out come many tiny seeds that quickly sail far away on the wind. The end.
God bless.